What is up, and welcome back to the Gamecocks Football Captain's Log, where we as Gamecock fans talk about Gamecock football. And when I say we, I mean the captain himself of Morris Island Charters, Petey Anabanet. Petey, how are you doing?
Better than I was this weekend.
That is good news. That is good news. Speaking of this past weekend, we beat Kentucky.
We did, by a miracle.
Yes.
Should not have happened.
It was very terrifying the whole time. I was there, as was Darude. 17-14 win. What did you like from that game?
The first two drives, and that was it.
All downhill from there. So I think what is kind of scary for me, I do have some positives, but what's scary is the offense has not looked sharp at all.
Yeah. The first two drives looked really well. We were moving Rattler outside of the pocket, getting him kind of space to work with. And it started to kind of unravel once we got into the red zone of that second drive, where he started missing some receivers underneath. I think he had Braswell open and Mario open on the following play, where he could have dropped it down to them and they could have probably scored. But it for some reason, after those two drives, it just all seemed to come apart at the seams, and we could not do anything with the ball productive. I don't know
how much
why.
of that was play calling versus Rattler not being sharp, or was it like a combination of both those things? What do you think was going on there, just based on what you saw?
So it seemed like the play calling did change a little bit. We got away from using Anderson, and then Anderson, when we started trying to use him again, then he got hurt, so he was ineffective for the rest of the half. And it's I think Kentucky's defense came alive a little bit. That guy, that monster defensive lineman they've got, number 0, Walker, was just, we couldn't do anything with him. We were just trying to run away from him. And I mean, Rattler did a good job like breaking loose and, finding space to get out of, being sacked. They did get him, I think, once or twice, but we were not on the same page, and we're not using levels as far as throwing patterns. We got back into that little same routine of trying to throw the ball 25 yards downfield every time instead of checkdowns and, giving different looks. So I don't know. I don't know where the problem is. Is it with Loggins, or is it with, not having the right players, or poor execution? I don't know. It's hard to tell.
Because I know that we've talked about mixing things up in the passing game pretty much the entire season. Definitely the last couple of weeks. And another thing that I noticed, especially looking back, is that we went away from Joshua Simon back to Trey Knox.
Yes. Well, I think Knox was hurt for a little while, so we tried to rest him. But it was pretty clear that Simon is the better player on the field.
Yes, and I figure, like, if you're dying to use Trey Knox, you can also use Joshua Simon at the same time, I would think.
Yeah, it's not like you can't have two tight ends on the field.
Yeah, I mean, we probably need at least an extra one for blocking purposes, and you could get creative that way too. But I did not understand that with how effective Simon's been. You talked about Mario Anderson, could never really get going. He got hurt. He finished with 27 yards. Rattler's stats were decent. A lot of that is if you have Xavier Legette, you're going to have nice stats. I mean, he had another nearly 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. So that
his 2 touchdowns were basically just Kentucky fucking up.
Yep.
As far as like pass coverage goes, I think they were confused on who was supposed to take a look at on both those plays.
And so thank God for him. But yeah, the offense, only 257 yards of total offense, which is troubling. We are going in reverse to end the season, which you don't want to see.
The offense is clearly regressing. The defense is still not good or decent, but they are showing signs of life. They got turnovers, which were the determining factor of the game. That's what won the game by far. Kentucky should have had 2 or 3 more touchdowns if it wasn't for the pick, the fumble, and then the strip pick, or whatever you want to call that last one at the end. There was no way we should have won that game, but somehow miracles happen.
So that's the big thing. Forced 3 turnovers, like you said. That's 9 the past 3 weeks after 0 the previous 3 games combined. That seems to be the big thing defensively that I'm seeing. And we did hold them to 293 yards of total offense. The defense does look better, and they're forcing turnovers. You talked a little bit about changing the scheme last week and how you were seeing some different things. Are you still seeing those things, or is it just kind of like luck?
So basically, we were in the 3-man front for most of the game. And what that has allowed us to do is to kind of make up for teams that want to run outside and get to the edges on us. And we have kind of with clearly we're not that big up front, but we are fast and we can get to the edge. So we're eliminating or slowing that down, and basically it's inviting teams to kind of run up the middle on us, which they have been doing, not to as huge of a detriment as I thought it would be. We're kind of more absorbing those runs. We're not like making plays in the backfield, but those up the middle plays, we're slowing them down enough to where we're getting into situations where we need to be in to get them off the field.
So what are your thoughts on Clayton White now?
Still no good. I don't.
Okay, fair enough. I didn't know if he'd saved his job or if he could still save his job in your eyes. Okay.
It took him 7 games to change something.
Yeah.
It's still, we're not developing these guys into a situation where they're a lot better than they were. We made one change and here we are. It's working slightly better, but we're still kind of holding it together with, duct tape.
Yes. And one last thing I wanted to bring up before we moved on to a pretty big game that y'all may have heard of on Saturday.
Yep.
The crowd at Williams-Brice for a 4-win team at the time, facing a Kentucky team that was on there having a down year too. Insane. I cannot believe that many people showed up, myself included, to watch that. So please, I'm begging the team, the whole program, put out a good product for fans such as myself, so that I can be happy.
Yeah, Williams-Brice is a great atmosphere when we're doing well, or at least we're in the game.
Yeah.
We're getting blown out in the first quarter. You start to see seats empty out quick.
Yes.
So I think Beamer mentioned that he wants to see the cockpit full in the fourth quarter against Clemson.
Well, there's a way to do that. Also, shout out to Darude, who looked taken aback by the whole thing. But speaking of Clemson, Saturday, 7:30, SEC Network at Williams-Brice. Currently a 7-point underdog. Clemson 7-4. They've won 3 in a row, including 2 against top 20 opponents after the old Tyler from Spartanburg call. How are you feeling having beaten them last year? How are you feeling heading into this one? Can we do it again, possibly?
Based on what I've seen of Clemson, which I haven't watched all their games, but I watched a good bit of UNC and I've watched a little bit of them over the season, but they still look pretty benign on offense, and then the defense just looks incredibly good, which is how they've won all their games, is just by that amazing defense, which really sounds bad for us since our offense is regressing. Our defense is not anywhere close to what theirs is. Their offense at the moment looks better than ours. So I would say the outlook is poor as far as coming out with victory.
Because we've seen them do it, unfortunately, for way too long now, but it looks a lot different offensively, where they don't have like the explosive wide receivers. Like you're not really worried about that. They don't have. We were all told there was a generational quarterback coming in with Cade Klubnik. He hasn't looked like that. He's shown some signs of life, but he's still inconsistent. Offensively, it's really those two running backs, Shipley and Maffa, who you worry about. And they've almost split the carries right down the middle the whole season. I think 149 for Maffa and 141 for Shipley. They each have 700, 800 yards. That's how they're doing it on offense. And that kind of gives you hope, because if they don't score 30 points, you have a chance. They're undefeated, 6-0 when they score 30 plus. So don't let them do that. Do we have a defense that can do that? I don't know. And that's what's scary.
Yeah, so for our offense to get to 30 points against their defense, I would say it's going to be a tall order. We're going to have to really mitigate that defensive line somehow. And the way you do that is by doing short passes, which is something we have struggled with doing all year. And it seems like it's every week I can want to say, is like, why are we not doing this? It's the only way we're going to win. And especially, true this week, we have to get their defensive line to not want to rush upfield on every play. We have to get them to slack off and read and, do other things. It can't just be Rattler sitting back there for 3-4 seconds waiting for Xavier to get open down the field. He's going to get annihilated if we continue this pattern.
Yeah.
And it almost happened against Kentucky. And Kentucky's defense is not nearly what Clemson's is. So, they've got Clemson's defense has got really good defensive line, linebackers, and they can cover. And that's really disheartening for a team who has to. Their only play is for Leggett on a corner route or a post route to 15, 20 yards downfield, and occasionally we throw it to a tight end who is also 15 yards downfield. We're going to have to sneak out a back out of the backfield to in the flats, not a screen, but just to the flats or somewhere crossing over the middle, 5 yards, just to give him a check down option, and then actually use that option.
Yeah, again, I want to reiterate, in case Dowell is listening, not a screen.
Not a screen.
Not a screen.
You're allowed 2 screens. 2 screens per game.
That's it. Enough. You're done. Okay. Yeah. No more. No. Don't even think about doing it, because I know you want to call it right now.
So let's stop doing the things that we're bad at. Let's do things that we're good at.
That would be nice. And you're right. They are elite defensively, especially against the pass. They allow the 8th fewest yards in FBS through the air at 166.7 a game. They got that linebacker, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., who is insane. It felt like he single-handedly beat Notre Dame a couple weeks ago. They got the DB, Nate Wiggins, who's supposed to be a first-round draft pick. This defense is terrifying.
Yeah, it's a bit of a grim outlook. How do we have to play a very good offensive game in order to be in a situation where we can win this. Play calling and execution.
Yes. Now they are, as we said, elite on defense, but the hole that they have on defense is in their red zone defense. So if you can somehow get to the red zone, they're middle of the road. You do have to come away with touchdowns. Like, we can't just kick a bunch of field goals.
Yeah.
But that would be the weak part that I could find on the defense, which isn't great.
I don't think we're particularly good at red zone offense.
So, yeah, I was just
more than we go forwards.
Trying to find the areas. And then offensively, this is where Clayton White could possibly save his job, in my eyes. Probably not, but maybe. They definitely have holes on offense. Like,
yeah.
If we had an average defense. Yeah. So as bad as their red zone defense is, which again isn't that bad, it's just middle of the road, their red zone offense is one of the worst in the country because they don't have the guys like they normally have. So if you can limit those home run touchdown plays and just kind of force them to be methodical, you got a shot. And if you force them to kick field goals, old Tyler from Spartanburg did not mention bringing in a new kicker, but their kickers stink. They've tried a couple different kickers. Every kicker stink. Like, they're 50% on the season, and their longest field goal is 41 yards.
Yeah, I think it was 18 is what I saw.
Yeah, and it's not like he's lining up from deep and missing them. He's missing them everywhere. Both kickers they've tried. So if you can bend but not break on defense and limit them to field goals, then we saw last year how it was kind of you're piecing together touchdowns, you're surviving mistakes. If you can do that and you're at home, there's a chance. There's not a big chance, I don't think, but there is a chance.
There is a slim chance. I don't know that we get blown out just because they look pretty bad on, they're not good on offense.
Yeah.
But our defense could be pretty terrible on any given day. I say it's probably more of a low scoring game. Probably not getting more than 30 or 31 points on the winning side of this. It's not a good outlook, but there is that chance that we can come away with this win at Williams-Brice at night.
Yeah. So, and you got to have the confidence from last season too. Like, you have beaten this team, different quarterback, even though DJ looks incredible at Oregon State. Yeah. It's funny how that happens. And with coming into this game, forcing turnovers, that helps too. Clemson leads the nation in fumbles lost. So if you go out and make a couple big plays, maybe you turn some things around. But we have to know what the Dolphins think. So entertainment purposes only. 7-point underdog right now. I think the line actually has gone from 7.5 to 7. So it's coming our way.
Yeah.
You and the Dolphins, how do you feel?
So as much as the Dolphins don't trust Clemson's offense, they also really trust Clemson's defense. So they are going to go with Clemson -7.
I think unfortunately I kind of feel that way too. Just because, like we've been talking about, we don't mix things up on offense. Like Dow picks a guy, and that's what he uses. Like, okay, Legette's healthy, then Legette, you're running deep, and we're going to throw it to you. You're not healthy, we'll just do it with Harbor. We're not going to use Harbor and Legette and target both of them at the same time. That would be crazy. Same thing with Simon and Knox. Got two tight ends. One I think is better than the other, but clearly you see something.
Yeah.
Okay, we could use two tight ends, but we're not going to. We're going to have them run similar routes to Legette and Harbor, and we're just going to do the same thing over and over again. And I don't think we have the luxury of not mixing things up ever, but especially not against a defense that looks like this.
Yes. Yeah. You've got a powerhouse defense coming in on Saturday that if you are not kind of trying to throw every look at them that you possibly can, you are not an offensive coordinator. You've not been seeing what we've seen every week. You're not going to skate by. You've got to put the ball in all these other spots that you've not been putting it recently.
And there's just no confidence that we're really going to see that. You see like some flashes for a drive or two every game.
Yeah.
Now is the time. Like trying to make a ball game, trying to beat your rival at home at night. Let's get nuts.
Right. I mean, we've got nothing to lose except for the Palmetto Bowl.
And we've lost that and we've survived it.
Yeah, we've done it so many times before. We can do it again.
I'm numb. I'm numb inside. You can't hurt me anymore. You can't.
I just want to see us put a game plan together that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I've yet to see an entire game of that all year. And it's hard to say that we were doing that against Vanderbilt just because Vanderbilt's so terrible. It's hard to get any kind of judgment out of that. But anytime we start to feel adversity in the game where we just continue doing this, go back to the same plays that we ran the entire game and expecting different outcomes. It's really confusing.
And I sometimes wonder with Rattler's issues, if the way that we've called plays all season, if it's just not in his head to even think about looking, even if we have a guy on an intermediate route, if he's just so locked in, it's either a short or long. If he's not even thinking intermediate because we've only tried it recently a handful of times.
It's very possible. I mean, he probably favors Legette almost, on every throw. So, I mean, if I had Legette, I'd be out there looking for him in every play too. But
yeah,
I mean, you should be able to read the defense and see, is he going to be open, or is he going to have an opportunity to throw there? If not, what is my next check down? And run through that process. Now, sometimes he doesn't have the whole, the time to do that.
Yeah.
But you can also get pre-snap reads and, see if two guys are on Legette.
Maybe throw it to someone else.
Not doing that. They were just letting him run free.
Yeah, I don't think that happens this week at all.
No, it's not going to be like that. You're going to have to be crisp and on target.
Okay.
One thing that we were doing last week is we were trying to move Spencer's pocket to either side to give him more space from the line so that they couldn't get, the offensive line wouldn't have to block for as long. That's not gonna be a thing this week.
No,
their defensive ends are gonna keep contained for one. Also, they're faster. They're gonna get to you a lot quicker. So that should not be a focal point this week.
So just based on what you're saying, I do have one final question. 7:30 kickoff. If I want to enjoy this game, or at least not be sad during this game, what time should I start drinking on Saturday?
About 1 a.m.
Okay. All right. I'm going to set an alarm, so I'll wake up and do that.
That way you can be asleep by 11 a.m. and just wake up on Sunday.
It's Sunday, and you're like, oh, what happened? I got a hangover, but someone tell me what the score was. All right. I'm setting an alarm now. I suggest you do the same, everyone listening.
Yeah.
I think we covered it all. Do you think we covered it all?
I think so.
All right. Well, I hope everyone has a happy Thanksgiving. We will be back next week. Win or lose, it might be the last episode of the season. We don't know.
Yeah.
We will see. If you want to take a tour with the legendary Captain Petey of Morris Island Charters, check out the show notes. Other than that, we'll catch you next week. And if we beat Clemson, I tell you what, they're going to kick me off YouTube. Don't let it happen. So
burn down Clemson.
Yes. So I am Brandon Silvers on behalf of myself. I don't know if I can do things on behalf of myself, but I just did. And Captain Petey, we will catch you next week.
Bye-bye.